Have you ever felt overwhelmed by arrogance, angered by lies, or moved by the power of change? This video will immerse you in a world where bitter lessons are paid for with naked truth. Witness the fall of a queen, feel the joy of justice being served, and reflect on the true values of life. Share your feelings, tell your own story, and discuss the lessons you learned. Don't miss a moment, because every moment is bursting with unforgettable emotions together. Let's explore the secrets behind the glamour and find empathy in our common experiences. Aspen, Colorado, during the holiday season, shimmered like a frosted dream, a pristine, snow-draped stage for the ultra-wealthy. The air, sharp and invigorating, crackled with the promise of exclusive experiences and extravagant indulgences. Against this backdrop of opulent winter splendor, a sleek black SUV, its tinted windows reflecting the dazzling sunlight, pulled up to the grand entrance of the prestigious Aspen Chalet. From the vehicle emerged Izzy Sterling, a vision of curated perfection. Her designer ski gear, a symphony of muted grays and icy blues, caught the light, each meticulously chosen piece whispering of exorbitant price tags. She moved with an air of practiced nonchalance, a subtle swagger that proclaimed her self-appointed title, Queen of Aspen. Behind her, Chloe Vance, her loyal shadow, mirrored Izzy's every move, her eyes wide with a mixture of admiration and nervous anticipation. Liam Davies, the third member of their entourage, lagged slightly behind, his expression a study in quiet reservation. "This place," Izzy declared, her voice cutting through the crisp mountain air, "is finally worthy of my presence." She swept her gaze across the chalet's imposing facade, a masterpiece of rustic elegance and modern luxury. "But," she added, a mischievous glint in her eyes, "we're not here for the slopes. We're here for the experience." Chloe, her voice a breathless whisper, echoed, "The VIP tea at Eleanor Vance's, right? I've heard it's legendary." Liam, his brow furrowed, interjected, "Are you sure about this, Izzy? We don't even know this Eleanor Vance." Izzy scoffed. "Details, Liam, details. It's about the experience, the exclusivity, the bragging rights." She turned to Chloe, her eyes sparkling with conspiratorial excitement. "Besides, a little white lie never hurt anyone, right?" The tea house, nestled within the chalet's labyrinthine corridors, was a stark contrast to the resort's contemporary aesthetic. It was a sanctuary of old-world charm, a relic of a bygone era, with its antique furniture, delicate porcelain, and the intoxicating aroma of rare teas. Rumors swirled about its legendary VIP service, a curated experience reserved for the elite, featuring a tea so rare it was said to be worth more than its weight in gold. Izzy, fueled by her insatiable desire for exclusivity, approached the tea house's elegant hostess, a woman with a serene demeanor and a keen, observant gaze. "We're here to see Eleanor Vance," she announced, her voice dripping with an air of entitlement. "We're close friends." The hostess, her expression unwavering, raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Mrs. Vance is currently occupied. May I ask who is inquiring?" "Isabella Sterling," Izzy replied, her tone laced with impatience. "And these are my companions, Chloe Vance and Liam Davies. We were expecting preferential treatment." Chloe, ever eager to please, chimed in, "Yes, we've heard so much about the VIP tea. We're practically family." Liam, his face flushed with discomfort, remained silent, his gaze fixed on the intricate patterns of the Persian rug beneath his feet. He felt a knot of unease tightening in his stomach, a premonition of impending disaster. Unbeknownst to the trio, their audacious claims had been overheard. Eleanor Vance herself, a woman of quiet dignity and sharp intellect, observed their antics from a discreet vantage point. A flicker of amusement danced in her eyes as she listened to their elaborate fabrication. "Practically family," she murmured to herself, a wry smile playing on her lips. "How interesting." She stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Isabella, Chloe, Liam," she said, her voice a gentle melody that belied the steel beneath. "Welcome to my tea house. I believe we have much to discuss. The trio turned, their faces a mixture of surprise and apprehension. Izzy, ever the opportunist, attempted to regain control of the situation. Eleanor, how wonderful to see you! We were just telling your associate about our long-standing friendship. Eleanor Vance's smile widened, a subtle hint of mischief in her eyes. Indeed. Then perhaps you can tell me, Isabella, how we first met? The air crackled with tension. Izzy's carefully constructed facade began to crumble, her eyes darting nervously between Eleanor Vance and her companions. Chloe's face flushed crimson, while Liam's gaze remained fixed on the floor, his unease now a palpable presence. Well, Izzy stammered, her voice faltering, it was at a charity event, wasn't it? A gala, with lots of people. Eleanor Vance's smile remained fixed, her eyes unwavering. A charity event, you say? How convenient. I'm afraid my memory fails me. Perhaps you can refresh it with a few more details? The stage was set, the game had begun, and Izzy Sterling, the self-proclaimed Queen of Aspen, was about to learn a valuable lesson about the perils of deception. Instead of the anticipated public exposure, Eleanor Vance, with a serene smile that belied the sharp glint in her eyes, extended a gracious invitation. Please, she said, her voice a silken whisper, allow me to offer you the VIP tea experience. It would be my pleasure. Izzy, momentarily stunned, quickly recovered her composure, a triumphant smirk spreading across her face. See, she whispered to Chloe, I told you she'd recognize my influence. Liam, however, remained rooted to the spot, his unease deepening into a palpable dread. Eleanor Vance led them through a discreet doorway, revealing the exclusive VIP tea room. The space was a sanctuary of refined elegance, a world apart from the bustling resort outside. Antique furniture, polished to a gleaming sheen, lined the walls, while delicate porcelain teacups, each a masterpiece of craftsmanship, adorned a meticulously set table. The air was thick with the intoxicating aroma of rare teas, a symphony of exotic scents that promised an unparalleled sensory experience. Izzy, convinced of her social prowess, reveled in the lavish surroundings, her eyes darting around the room, cataloging every detail for future social media posts. Chloe, her phone already in hand, eagerly snapped photos, her fingers flying across the screen as she crafted captions that would paint a picture of unparalleled luxury. Liam, however, remained withdrawn, his gaze fixed on the intricate patterns of the Persian rug beneath his feet, sensing an undercurrent of something amiss. Please, make yourselves comfortable, Eleanor Vance said, her voice a gentle melody. I have prepared a selection of our most exquisite teas and pastries. A procession of elegantly dressed servers entered the room, bearing trays laden with delectable treats. Delicate pastries, each a work of art, were arranged alongside exotic fruits and savory canapes. The centerpiece of the spread was a gleaming silver samovar, from which poured a steaming, amber-colored tea, its aroma filling the room with an intoxicating fragrance. This, Eleanor Vance announced, her voice laced with a subtle hint of theatricality, is our signature blend, the Golden Aspen. It is a rare and exquisite tea, reserved only for our most discerning guests. Izzy, her eyes gleaming with avarice, reached for a delicate pastry, her fingers adorned with diamond rings. It looks divine, she purred, her voice dripping with affected sophistication. Chloe, her mouth watering, eagerly sampled a piece of fruit, her eyes widening in delight. Oh my God, Izzy! You have to try this. It's incredible, Liam, though hesitant, took a sip of the tea, his eyes widening in surprise. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted, he admitted, his voice tinged with a hint of awe. Eleanor Vance, observing their reactions with a knowing smile, encouraged them to indulge. Please, enjoy, she said, her voice laced with a subtle hint of mischief. There is no need to hold back. The trio, their initial apprehension replaced by a sense of unbridled indulgence, eagerly devoured the lavish spread. They ordered round after round of the most expensive items on the menu, their voices growing louder and more boisterous as they reveled in their perceived social triumph. "Another pot of the golden aspen, please," Izzy declared, her voice echoing through the room. "And bring us some more of those, what were they called? The snowflake scones? They're simply divine." Chloe, her phone constantly in hand, documented every moment of their extravagant indulgence, her social media feed overflowing with images of luxury and excess. Liam, though still uneasy, found himself caught up in the moment, his reservations momentarily forgotten. Eleanor Vance, a master of hospitality, ensured that their every whim was catered to, her demeanor a perfect blend of warmth and efficiency. However, beneath her serene facade, a plan was taking shape, a carefully orchestrated lesson in humility. The tea house, under Eleanor Vance's management, held a long and storied history of teaching wealthy and arrogant individuals the true meaning of value. She had witnessed countless displays of hubris, and she had developed a keen understanding of how to gently, but firmly, guide them towards a more enlightened perspective. "They think they're playing me," she murmured to herself, her eyes fixed on the trio's oblivious revelry. "But they have no idea what game they're truly playing." She watched as they indulged in their self-proclaimed victory, their laughter echoing through the room, their voices filled with the arrogance of the privileged. She knew that their moment of triumph was fleeting, that the bill, when it arrived, would shatter their illusions of grandeur. Let them enjoy their feast, she thought, a hint of amusement in her eyes. The reckoning is coming. As the afternoon sun began to cast long, dramatic shadows across the snow-covered peaks outside, the atmosphere within the VIP tea room subtly shifted. The carefree laughter and boisterous chatter that had filled the space moments before began to dissipate, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The air, once thick with the intoxicating aroma of rare teas, now crackled with a palpable tension. Eleanor Vance, her demeanor as serene as ever, signaled to a server who approached the table with a silver tray. On it rested a meticulously folded bill, its crisp edges hinting at the gravity of its contents. The server placed the tray before Izzy, the self-proclaimed Queen of Aspen, her eyes fixed on the young woman's face. Izzy, her confidence momentarily faltering, reached for the bill, her fingers trembling slightly. She unfolded it, her eyes scanning the meticulously itemized list. A low gasp escaped her lips, her face draining of color as she took in the staggering total. What is this?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Chloe, leaning over Izzy's shoulder, gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Oh my God," she breathed, her voice laced with panic. That's insane, Liam." His suspicions confirmed, remained silent, his gaze fixed on the bill, his expression a mixture of apprehension and a grim sense of "I told you so." The total was a monstrous sum, a figure that shattered their illusions of grandeur and sent a chilling wave of reality crashing down upon them. The lavish indulgence they had so gleefully embraced now loomed before them, a stark reminder of their reckless extravagance. "There must be some mistake," Izzy declared, her voice regaining a semblance of its former confidence. This is outrageous, Chloe," her eyes darting around the room, whispered. "What are we going to do, Izzy? We can't possibly pay this, Slim." His voice laced with a hint of exasperation, interjected. "Maybe if we hadn't ordered every single thing on the menu, we wouldn't be in this mess." Izzy shot him a venomous glare. "Don't you dare start with the 'I told you so' routine, Liam," she hissed. "This is your fault too, you know." The trio's initial shock quickly gave way to a desperate attempt to evade payment. Izzy, resorting to her usual tactics, launched into a tirade, her voice echoing through the once serene tea room. "I demand to speak to Eleanor Vance," she declared, her voice laced with indignation. "This is a blatant attempt to defraud us. We are close friends of Mrs. Vance, and this is how we are treated?" Chloe, her panic escalating, tried to create a diversion, knocking over a teacup and feigning distress. "Oh my goodness, I'm so clumsy!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. Liam, feeling a growing sense of guilt and disgust, suggested a more pragmatic approach. Maybe we should just split the bill, he said, his voice barely audible. It's still a lot, but it's better than nothing, Izzy scoffed. Split the bill? Are you insane? I'm not paying a dime. Eleanor Vance, who had been observing their antics with a quiet amusement, finally intervened. Is there a problem? She asked, her voice a gentle melody that belied the steel beneath. A problem? Izzy scoffed. This is more than a problem. This is highway robbery. Eleanor Vance, her demeanor calm and composed, approached the table, her eyes fixed on Izzy's face. Perhaps you would care to explain, she said, her voice laced with a subtle hint of challenge. Izzy, her face flushed with anger, thrust the bill towards Eleanor Vance. This is an outrage, she declared. We are friends of yours, and this is how you treat us? Eleanor Vance, her expression unwavering, took the bill and scanned it meticulously. I see no outrage, she said, her voice calm and measured. This is a detailed record of everything you consumed. She then produced a leather-bound ledger, its pages, filled with meticulous entries. Allow me to refresh your memory, she said, her voice laced with a hint of irony. She proceeded to read aloud each item on the bill, cross-referencing it with the entries in the ledger. The evidence was irrefutable. Every pastry, every pot of tea, every exotic fruit was meticulously documented, leaving the trio with no room for denial. As you can see, Eleanor Vance concluded, her voice laced with a subtle hint of triumph, the bill is accurate. You have enjoyed a lavish experience, and now it is time to pay for it. The trio, their faces flushed with shame and anger, were left with no choice but to face the consequences of their actions. The icy plunge into reality had begun, and the waters were bitterly cold. The air in the VIP tea room, once filled with the gentle murmur of conversation and the clinking of delicate china, now vibrated with the raw, unfiltered fury of Izzy Sterling. Her carefully constructed facade of composure had crumbled, revealing the petulant, entitled core beneath. Her reputation, the meticulously crafted image she had cultivated, was on the line, and she was prepared to fight tooth and nail to salvage it. This is an outrage, she shrieked, her voice echoing through the once serene space. I will not be extorted. I am Isabella Sterling, and I will not be treated like some commoner. She launched into a full-blown meltdown, a whirlwind of emotional outbursts that ranged from desperate pleas to venomous threats. Her voice, once a melodic whisper, now grated like nails on a chalkboard, each word laced with a potent cocktail of fear and anger. Eleanor, please, she pleaded, her voice trembling. You know we're friends. We've been to so many events together, remember? That charity gala, the art exhibit, her voice trailed off, her mind scrambling for fabricated memories. Chloe, caught in the crossfire of Izzy's emotional storm, wavered between loyalty and a growing sense of shame. Her eyes darted between Izzy's furious face and Eleanor Vance's calm, composed demeanor. A knot of guilt tightened in her stomach, and she longed to escape the suffocating tension that filled the room. Liam, disgusted by Izzy's behavior, stepped away, distancing himself from the unfolding drama. He watched, his expression a mixture of disappointment and a grim sense of satisfaction, as Izzy's carefully constructed world began to implode. Izzy, sensing her grip on the situation slipping, resorted to increasingly desperate measures. She pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she fabricated text messages, desperately trying to create the illusion of a close relationship with Eleanor Vance. See? She exclaimed, thrusting the phone towards Eleanor Vance. We're practically family. She even calls me darling. Eleanor Vance, witnessing Izzy's desperate attempts at deception, maintained her composure, her expression a mask of serene amusement. She calmly countered each of Izzy's claims, her voice laced with a subtle hint of irony. Isabella, she said, her voice a gentle reprimand. I have never called you darling in my life. And as for those events you mentioned, I'm afraid I have no recollection of them. The other patrons of the tea house, initially oblivious to the unfolding drama, began to take notice of the disturbance. Whispers rippled through the room, heads turned, and eyes widened as they witnessed Izzy's spectacular meltdown. Izzy's social standing, once a source of pride and power, began to crumble before her eyes. The whispers, the stares, the hushed conversations, they were a chorus of condemnation, a symphony of social ostracism. "This is ridiculous," Izzy shrieked, her voice reaching a fever pitch. "I will not be humiliated like this. I demand to speak to the manager." Eleanor Vance, her patience finally wearing thin, raised an eyebrow. "I am the manager," she said, her voice laced with a subtle hint of steel. Izzy's face flushed crimson, her eyes wide with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You?" she stammered. But you're just a." She trailed off, unable to articulate the insult that hung on the tip of her tongue. She had always prided herself on her social acumen, her ability to navigate the complex hierarchy of the elite. But now, she found herself floundering, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. "I am Eleanor Vance," Eleanor Vance said, her voice firm and unwavering. "And I will not tolerate this behavior in my establishment." She turned to the other patrons, her voice regaining its warm, welcoming tone. "Please forgive the interruption," she said, her eyes sweeping across the room. "Please continue to enjoy your tea." The room slowly returned to its former tranquility, the whispers subsiding, the heads turning away. But the damage was done. Izzy's meltdown had shattered her carefully crafted image, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. She stood there, her face flushed with shame, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and humiliation. Her carefully constructed world had crumbled, and she was left standing amidst the ruins, her crown tarnished, her reputation in tatters. The silence that descended upon the VIP tea room was heavy, thick with the weight of unspoken truths and shattered illusions. Eleanor Vance, her gaze unwavering, fixed her attention on Izzy, her voice a gentle but firm counterpoint to the young woman's earlier tirade. "Isabella," she began, her voice resonating with an authority that commanded attention, "you have claimed a friendship that does not exist. You have attempted to deceive me and my staff with fabricated stories and manufactured evidence." With each word, the carefully constructed facade that Izzy had meticulously built began to crumble, revealing the hollowness beneath. The truth, stark and undeniable, hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to Izzy's earlier boasts of intimacy and influence. "I have no personal relationship with you," Eleanor Vance continued, her voice unwavering. "Our paths have never crossed outside of this establishment, and I have never extended to you any form of preferential treatment." The other patrons of the tea house, a mix of wealthy tourists and influential locals, watched the scene unfold with a mixture of amusement and disdain. Whispers rippled through the room, heads turned, and eyes widened as they witnessed the unraveling of Izzy's carefully crafted persona. Izzy's carefully constructed image of wealth and sophistication, the persona she had cultivated with such meticulous care, shattered before their eyes. The whispers, the stares, the hushed conversations, they were a chorus of condemnation, a symphony of social ostracism. Chloe, witnessing the full extent of Izzy's deception, finally broke her silence. The guilt and shame that had been gnawing at her conscience had reached a breaking point, and she could no longer remain silent. "Izzy," she began, her voice trembling. I can't believe you lied to her like that. We're not friends with Mrs. Vance. We've never even met her before today." Her words, though softly spoken, echoed through the room, amplifying the sense of betrayal and disillusionment. Chloe's loyalty, once unwavering, had finally reached its limit. Liam, though hesitant, added his voice to the chorus of disapproval. "I told you this was a bad idea, Izzy," he said, his voice laced with a mixture of disappointment and a grim sense of "I told you so." You always have to take things too far. Izzy, isolated and humiliated, stood amidst the ruins of her shattered reputation. The weight of her actions, the magnitude of her deception finally crashed down upon her, forcing her to confront the reality of her behavior. "I didn't mean to," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I wanted to impress you all. I wanted to be special." Her words, though laced with a hint of vulnerability, did little to mitigate the damage she had caused. The truth, once concealed beneath layers of deception, now stood exposed, a stark reminder of her hubris. Eleanor Vance, her expression softened slightly, extended a hand towards Izzy. "Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a gentle reprimand, "there is no need to fabricate stories or manufacture friendships. True value lies not in fleeting moments of perceived exclusivity, but in the genuine connections we forge with others." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the room, taking in the faces of the other patrons. "We are all equals here," she continued, her voice resonating with a quiet authority. "Wealth and status do not grant anyone the right to deceive or manipulate others." The room remained silent, the only sound the gentle clinking of teacups and the soft murmur of conversations. Izzy, her face flushed with shame, stood isolated and exposed, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. The unmasking was complete. The Queen of Aspen had been dethroned, her crown tarnished, her reputation in tatters. The reality of her actions, the magnitude of her deception, now stood starkly before her, a humbling lesson in humility and integrity. The silence that followed Eleanor Vance's quiet rebuke was thick with shame. The trio, their faces flushed and their eyes downcast, reluctantly pooled their resources, scraping together the exorbitant sum demanded by the bill. The once luxurious tea, the pastries that had seemed so divine, now left a bitter, metallic taste in their mouths, a stark reminder of their folly. With heads bowed and shoulders slumped, they exited the VIP tea room, the weight of their actions pressing down on them like a physical burden. The opulent surroundings of the Aspen Chalet, once a symbol of their privileged world, now seemed to mock them with their ostentatious grandeur. Izzy, her pride wounded and her reputation tarnished, retreated to her room, slamming the door behind her with a force that echoed through the hallway. She refused to speak to Chloe or Liam, her silence a wall of anger and resentment. The Queen of Aspen had been dethroned, and she was in no mood to face her subjects. Chloe, her heart heavy with remorse, tried to approach Liam, her voice trembling as she attempted to apologize. "Liam, I'm so sorry," she began, her eyes brimming with tears. "I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have gone along with Izzy's plan." Liam, his expression a mask of disappointment, remained distant, his gaze fixed on the snow-covered peaks outside the window. "It's not just about the money, Chloe," he said, his voice laced with a hint of weariness. "It's about the lies, the manipulation, the sheer arrogance of it all." He turned to face her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and frustration. "We've known Izzy for years," he continued, "and this is who she is. She always has to be the center of attention, always has to have the best of everything, and she doesn't care who she hurts along the way." Chloe, her eyes filled with tears, nodded in agreement. "I know," she whispered. I always thought she would change. I thought she would." Her voice trailed off, her words lost in a sob. The incident cast a long shadow over their holiday, turning their once joyful vacation into a period of introspection and regret. The laughter and excitement that had filled their days were replaced by a heavy silence, a constant reminder of their shared shame. They spent their days in a state of quiet isolation, avoiding the other guests, their faces flushed with embarrassment whenever they ventured out of their rooms. The opulent surroundings of the resort, once a source of pleasure and pride, now seemed to mock them with their ostentatious grandeur. Izzy, holed up in her room, spent her days scrolling through her social media feed, desperately trying to salvage her tarnished reputation. She posted carefully curated photos of herself, attempting to portray an image of carefree elegance, but the comments were filled with whispers and innuendo, a constant reminder of her public humiliation. Chloe, haunted by guilt and remorse, spent her days writing and deleting apology messages to Eleanor Vance, her fingers hovering over the send button, but never quite daring to press it. She knew that her apology, however sincere, could never fully erase the damage that had been done. Liam, his disappointment turning into a quiet anger, spent his days exploring the surrounding wilderness, seeking solace in the solitude of nature. He hiked through snow-covered forests, skied down pristine slopes, and found a sense of peace in the vast, untamed landscape. The incident had shattered the illusion of their perfect friendship, revealing the cracks and fissures that had been hidden beneath the surface. They had come to Aspen seeking an escape, a chance to indulge in the luxuries of their privileged world, but they had found something far more profound, a harsh lesson in humility, a bitter taste of reality. News of Izzy's scandalous behavior, like a wildfire, spread through the tight-knit circles of the affluent. Whispers turned to murmurs, then to outright condemnation, reaching the ears of Catherine Sterling, Izzy's mother, a woman of impeccable reputation and towering social standing. Catherine, a paragon of grace and dignity, was utterly horrified by her daughter's actions. The meticulously crafted image of her family, a symbol of unwavering integrity, had been tarnished by Izzy's reckless arrogance. Without hesitation, Catherine booked the first available flight to Aspen. The journey, usually a source of relaxation and anticipation, was now a tense, agonizing wait. She replayed the stories she had heard, each detail a sharp stab of disappointment. Her daughter, the apple of her eye, had not only embarrassed herself, but had shamed the entire family. Upon arriving at the Aspen chalet, Catherine, her face etched with concern, wasted no time in seeking out Izzy. She found her daughter holed up in her room, the curtains drawn, the air thick with sullen silence. "Isabella," Catherine began, her voice a low, steady tone that belied the turmoil within. "We need to talk." Izzy, her eyes red and swollen, turned to face her mother, her expression a mixture of defiance and wounded pride. "There's nothing to talk about," she muttered, her voice laced with resentment. "Everyone's already made up their minds about me." Catherine, her heart aching for her daughter, refused to be deterred. "Your actions have consequences, Isabella," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "You've not only embarrassed yourself, but you've also damaged our family's reputation." "It's not my fault," Izzy retorted, her voice rising. "They treated me unfairly. I was just trying to have a good time." Catherine, her patience wearing thin, raised an eyebrow. "Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a hint of steel, "do not insult my intelligence. Your behavior was unacceptable. You lied, you manipulated, and you humiliated yourself in front of a room full of people." Izzy, initially defiant, crumbled under the weight of her mother's disappointment. Tears streamed down her face as she finally acknowledged the gravity of her mistakes. "I'm sorry, Mom," she sobbed, her voice choked with emotion. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be special." Catherine, her heart softening, pulled her daughter into a comforting embrace. "Oh, Isabella," she whispered, her voice filled with tenderness. "You are special, but true worth lies not in fleeting moments of perceived exclusivity, but in the genuine connections you forge with others, in honesty, integrity, and kindness." After allowing Izzy to compose herself, Catherine, determined to make amends, sought out Eleanor Vance. She found her in the tea house, overseeing the afternoon tea service. "Mrs. Vance," Catherine began, her voice laced with sincerity, "I am Catherine Sterling, Isabella's mother. I am here to offer my sincerest apologies for my daughter's behavior." Eleanor Vance, her expression softened, extended a hand towards Catherine. "Mrs. Sterling," she said, her voice warm and welcoming, "please allow me to offer you some tea." As they sat together, Catherine expressed her deep regret for Izzy's actions, emphasizing the importance of honesty and integrity. Eleanor Vance, in turn, shared her philosophy of teaching valuable life lessons through subtle means, emphasizing the importance of humility and respect. "Your daughter is a bright young woman," Eleanor Vance said, her voice laced with a hint of optimism. "I believe she has learned a valuable lesson, and I have faith that she will emerge from this experience a better person." Catherine, her heart filled with gratitude, thanked Eleanor Vance for her understanding and compassion. She left the tea house with a renewed sense of hope, determined to help Izzy rebuild her reputation and restore the family's honor. Catherine's sincere apology resonated deeply with Eleanor Vance. There was a genuine warmth in Catherine's demeanor, a stark contrast to the entitled arrogance Izzy had displayed. Eleanor accepted the apology with grace, her eyes reflecting a quiet understanding. "Mrs. Sterling," Eleanor began, her voice a soothing balm against the lingering tension. "Your sincerity is evident. Please, allow me to share some tea with you." She poured 2 cups of a delicate, fragrant blend, the steam curling upwards like wisps of wisdom. As they sipped their tea, Eleanor shared her philosophy, a tapestry woven with threads of experience and observation. "I believe in teaching valuable life lessons through subtle means," she explained, her voice laced with a gentle conviction. "Sometimes a gentle nudge is more effective than a forceful push. Humility, respect, and empathy, these are the cornerstones of a truly fulfilling life." She paused, her gaze drifting towards the window, where the snow-covered peaks shimmered in the afternoon sun. "This tea house," she continued, "is more than just a place to enjoy a cup of tea. It's a sanctuary, a place where people can reflect, learn, and grow." Catherine listened intently, her eyes reflecting a deep appreciation for Eleanor's wisdom. She had always instilled in Izzy the importance of character, but perhaps she had placed too much emphasis on external achievements, neglecting the inner development that truly mattered. Eleanor's gaze returned to Catherine, her eyes filled with a quiet understanding. "The incident with Isabella and her friends," she said, her voice laced with a subtle hint of melancholy, "was not an isolated case. It's a recurring theme in this tea house. I often encounter individuals who mistake wealth for worth, who believe that material possessions and social status grant them the right to treat others with disdain." She sighed, a hint of weariness in her voice. "They come here seeking exclusivity, seeking to validate their sense of superiority. But they leave with a lesson in humility, a reminder that true value lies not in what you have, but in who you are." She paused, her gaze drifting towards the empty VIP tea room, a silent witness to Izzy's meltdown. "Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a hint of optimism, "is a bright young woman. She has the potential to achieve great things, but she needs to learn that true success is not measured by material wealth or social status. It's measured by the impact she has on the lives of others, by the kindness and compassion she shows to those around her." She turned back to Catherine, her eyes filled with a quiet hope. "I believe that Isabella will learn from her mistakes," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "I believe that she will emerge from this experience a better person, a more compassionate and understanding individual." Catherine, her heart filled with gratitude, reached across the table and squeezed Eleanor's hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Vance," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for your wisdom, your compassion, and your understanding. You have given me a renewed sense of hope for my daughter." Eleanor Vance smiled, her eyes reflecting a quiet satisfaction. "You're welcome, Mrs. Sterling," she said, her voice laced with a gentle warmth. "Remember, the tea of truth is always best served with a side of Catherine's words, coupled with the profound wisdom of Eleanor Vance, had planted a seed of introspection within Izzy. The haughty facade she had so carefully constructed had crumbled, leaving behind a raw vulnerability, a yearning for genuine connection. The realization of her past behavior, her blatant disregard for others, weighed heavily on her conscience. The following morning, Izzy, her eyes still red from tears, but her demeanor noticeably subdued, sought out Chloe and Liam. She found them in the chalet's lounge, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and guarded curiosity. "Chloe, Liam," she began, her voice barely a whisper. I need to apologize." She paused, her eyes welling up with tears, her voice trembling with emotion. "I was wrong," she continued, her voice laced with genuine remorse. "I was arrogant, selfish, and I treated you both terribly. I'm so sorry." Chloe and Liam, their initial surprise giving way to a cautious hope, exchanged glances. They had witnessed Izzy's transformation, her shift from haughty entitlement to genuine humility, and they were willing to give her a chance. "Izzy," Chloe began, her voice filled with a tentative warmth, "we forgive you. We all make mistakes." Liam, his expression softening, added, "But this time, Izzy, you really crossed a line. You need to understand that your actions have consequences." Izzy nodded, her eyes filled with a newfound understanding. "I know," she said, her voice laced with sincerity. "I've learned a valuable lesson. I'll never take your friendship for granted again." Emboldened by their forgiveness, Izzy sought out Eleanor Vance, her heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and hope. She found her in the tea house, overseeing the morning preparations. "Mrs. Vance," she began, her voice trembling slightly, I was wondering if I could volunteer here. I want to make amends for my behavior." Eleanor Vance, her eyes reflecting a quiet approval, smiled warmly. "Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a gentle encouragement, "I admire your courage. I accept your offer." Izzy's face lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Vance," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "I won't let you down." And she didn't. Izzy threw herself into her volunteer work with a newfound enthusiasm, her initial clumsiness giving way to a quiet efficiency. She learned the intricacies of tea preparation, the delicate art of pastry making, and the subtle nuances of customer service. Her newfound humility and work ethic earned her the respect of the tea house staff and patrons. She no longer sought to impress with her wealth or status, but rather with her genuine kindness and willingness to learn. She discovered the satisfaction of a job well done, the quiet pride that came from contributing to something greater than herself. She began to appreciate the value of hard work, the importance of genuine connections, and the simple joy of serving others. One afternoon, as she was arranging delicate pastries on a serving tray, Eleanor Vance approached her, her eyes filled with a quiet satisfaction. "Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a gentle warmth, "you have made remarkable progress. You have transformed from a self-centered young woman into a compassionate and considerate individual." Izzy blushed, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Vance," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You've taught me so much." Eleanor Vance smiled, her eyes reflecting a quiet pride. "You have taught yourself, Isabella," she said, her voice laced with a gentle encouragement. "You have discovered the true meaning of value, the true meaning of success." As the festive season in Aspen drew to a close, a subtle shift permeated the atmosphere. The once bustling resort, its corridors echoing with the laughter and chatter of holiday revelers, began to quiet down. For Izzy, Chloe, and Liam, the departure was not merely a physical relocation, but a symbolic journey, a transition from a world of illusion to one of newfound clarity. They left Aspen, their perspectives irrevocably altered. The lessons they had learned, etched into their memories with the indelible ink of experience, would serve as guiding principles for their future endeavors. Honesty, humility, and the true meaning of wealth, these were the treasures they carried with them, far more valuable than any material possession. Izzy, her demeanor transformed, no longer sought validation in the fleeting accolades of social status. She had discovered the genuine satisfaction of hard work, the quiet pride that came from contributing to something meaningful. She had learned that true wealth lay not in the accumulation of material possessions, but in the cultivation of genuine connections, in the acts of kindness and compassion that enriched the lives of others. Chloe, her loyalty tempered with newfound discernment, had learned the importance of critical thinking, the courage to challenge the status quo. She had discovered her own voice, her own sense of self, and she was no longer content to be a mere echo of Izzy's opinions. Liam, his quiet reserve replaced by a quiet confidence, had learned the power of integrity, the importance of standing up for what was right. He had discovered his own strength, his own sense of purpose, and he was no longer afraid to voice his convictions. Eleanor Vance, reflecting on the events of the past week, added Izzy's bill to her collection of teaching moments. Each bill, each ledger entry, served as a reminder of the transformative power of gentle guidance, the enduring impact of a humbling experience. She had witnessed countless individuals, blinded by the allure of wealth and status, stumble along the path of hubris. But she had also witnessed their transformation, their awakening to the true meaning of value. She knew that even those who strayed from the path of integrity could find their way back, guided by wisdom and compassion. The human spirit, she believed, possessed an inherent resilience, a capacity for growth and redemption. As the sun dipped below the snow-capped peaks, casting long shadows across the valley, Eleanor Vance stood at the window of her tea house, her gaze fixed on the fading light. A gentle smile played on her lips, a quiet satisfaction in her eyes. The story concluded with a message of hope and redemption, a testament to the transformative power of human connection. Even those who strayed from the path of integrity, lost in the labyrinth of arrogance and deception, could find their way back, guided by the light of wisdom and compassion. The journey might be arduous, the path might be fraught with challenges, but the destination, a place of genuine connection, of unwavering integrity, of profound self-discovery, was well worth the effort. And so, the tale of Izzy Sterling, the Queen of Aspen, served as a timeless reminder that true royalty lies not in the possession of a crown, but in the possession of a compassionate heart.